fire dancers. And in our performance, we have this rule: 3 for them, 1 for me. The idea is, for every 3 moves that we do that we know the audience will enjoy, even if they're so easy that we could practically do them in our sleep, we get to do 1 extra move that is fun for us. It could be a trick that we've been working on, and maybe it's something that we have to spend a little extra time on for the audience to see what we're doing. And hopefully, they get to see something that they've never seen before. For example, we have this move called the buzzsaw. Kind of cool, right? But honestly, this move kind of bores me to tears. I could practically do it in my sleep. And when you're learning poi, it's one of the first moves you learn. So for every move, like the buzzsaw, I get to do 1 extra move for me, like a 3-beat wall play in flower. The same is true for dashboarding. When I'm making dashboards, for every 3 or so common requests that I get from my end user, I get to throw in an extra trick. Maybe something extra exciting, something my end user may never have seen before. These are my Easter eggs. So let's start at the beginning. Who is this end user? We want to talk directly to this end user, not to a committee, not to their team. How many of you would be excited if I told you that I could give you a free coffee drink right now? All right. How many of you would be just as excited if I told you that I had pre-selected a colleague to choose that drink for you? That's kind of what we're doing when we create a dashboard for someone that we've never met. We need to let them decide for themselves what they want. For me, one of these end users was an executive at a supply chain software company. We'll call him James. James wasn't the first person I talked to when I designed this dashboard. Originally, Kevin asked me to make the dashboard. When I asked Kevin what questions he wanted this dashboard to answer, he wasn't sure. This dashboard wasn't for him. The dashboard was for his boss, James. Kevin wasn't sure if I should meet with James. James's time was protected. He was a busy executive. Anyone here know a busy executive? Yeah. Anyone here that is a busy executive? Yeah, I got a couple. So James sent me to Mary, James's assistant, who prepared reports for James. She was really helpful. She gave me lots of reports, spreadsheets, things that she prepared at the quarter end, lots of numbers, charts, graphs. But she wasn't sure what James would want on this dashboard. So she sent me to Katie in finance. Katie gave me amortization, rev rec schedules, more spreadsheets. But she wasn't sure what James would want on this report either. So she sent me back to Mary. Maybe Mary could answer that other question. Are you getting as lost as I was? Would you be able to make James's interactive dashboard with this big pile of spreadsheets? If I know you like sweet potato fries and jambalaya, is a pumpkin spice latte a safe bet? We need to talk to these people and find out what they want. Whether your end user is an office away or a continent away, your next step is to schedule a meeting and find out what they want. So, what should this meeting look like? What needs to happen? Before James and I could be productive in this meeting, we needed to trust each other, find out a little bit about who each other was. We can start by level setting, find out what our end user knows. James didn't have a data background. He didn't know about views and tables, and that's okay. That's why I was there to help him pull the data and make that dashboard. He wasn't comfortable talking about asking for things that he didn't know. So if we'd stopped there, his entire dashboard would have consisted of line graphs and pie charts. We can do better. Talk about things other than work. You'll be working with this person for a while, so find out who they are. James likes sports. He loves the Yankees and hates the Mets. Knowing these little details helped us establish more of a relationship, have some inside jokes. That gave us room for humor and a way to breed some creativity, lighten the mood. So what if you don't want to talk to this person? Maybe they make you a little nervous. This could be a powerful person, maybe a C-level executive at your own company. Maybe they're the CEO. That's okay. Frankly, it'd be a little weird if they didn't make you kind of nervous. My best advice in that situation is, pardon me, but get over yourself. Focus on the person in front of you and what they need from you. So, what does this person need from you? Well, they need a dashboard, and they need this dashboard to answer their questions and to work the way they need it to. And right now, they need a way to tell you what that dashboard should be and what it should answer. You can facilitate this by making that conversation easier for them, using their language and speaking the words that they're already comfortable using. James didn't know the right data terms. He wasn't comfortable using the words dashboards and views. So he stumbled when he tried to say, I want this thing to filter that one, you know? So when customers do that, or when the people that you're working with do that and they stumble, help them out. You can offer the right words or use the words they're already using. If they stumble, remind them that they're the experts on their business, because they are. We want to resist telling our end users what to do. We want to work with them to partner and guide them to the right decisions for them. So if they ask for something that's ill-advised, like a pie chart with 47 categories, instead of just saying no, go ahead and make that pie chart, but also show them how to answer their business question with an alternative, like a bar chart or a tree chart. And then let them choose. And if they choose the wrong one, that's okay. It's their chart, and we want them to choose the option that answers the question that speaks to them. And while you're making options, have fun with it. So if they give you a list of strict requirements, go ahead and make those requirements. But have fun making alternatives and give them extra insights with your own take on it and show them what you come up with. And while you're showing options, take the pressure off of them. We want to do this in a couple of ways. First, we want to take the pressure off of our end user to know or to like and to understand things. So we can explain that a lot of what they'll choose and a lot of what they'll like and understand is just based on past experience. They may find something easy to understand because it looks just like what they've seen in other programs. Or it may be difficult to understand because they've never seen anything like that before. And a lot of this is just personal preference. Someone may love the way something looks because it's so detailed and they can see every piece of it so clearly and simply. While someone else may look at the same chart and think it looks messy and cluttered and there's just too much going on. Neither's wrong. Neither's necessarily right. We also can take the pressure off of our end user to know something before they talk to us. So instead of saying, "Do you know?" we can say, "As you may know," or "As you probably know." This gives us the chance to offer information as a review. We get to let them know either way. Chances are you're going to encounter some complex topics when you're talking with your end users. You'll probably explain something, a technical concept, to someone who doesn't have a technical background. And the way you handle this concept is key to maintaining your rapport with this person that you've worked so hard to establish that rapport with. Be careful not to load them up with lots of jargon, or to just brush them off and assume that they can't get it. Chances are they're smart enough to get it if you're good enough at explaining it. You want to take the time to explain the concept clearly and simply, and be creative with it. So draw, use analogies. James was able to understand the concept of a join with looking at a picture that looked like a Venn diagram. And if you need ideas, look online, take a training class, or reach out to someone at Tableau. I'm very happy to be that person. So we've talked about how to talk to this person. So what should we be talking about? There's one piece of information you cannot leave this meeting without, and that is, what business question do we want this dashboard to answer? They may know. Great. They may not know. Help them out. We can help by asking open-ended questions. This is their dashboard, so we want their ideas, their questions, in their words. We'll ask questions like, what business questions do you want this dashboard to answer? We're going to ask questions like who, what, when, where, why, using those question words that we learn when we're kids. Instead of things like, do you want a line graph here? So a trend chart? And we want to get all the information we can from our end users. It's so easy to fill silence with our extra thoughts and questions because silence can be kind of uncomfortable. But see what happens if you take the time to sit back and listen. Let them tell you more. They may get stuck. Try rephrasing. We can get so much more creative if we try moving words around and just ask things a little bit differently. So try asking things like, what do you want this dashboard to tell you? Why are we making this thing? What keeps you up at night? This one. This got James thinking beyond his initial ideas for the dashboard, and we were able to look at questions about his closed-loss deals that made him really happy. What if you ask all these questions and you're still stuck? Use your resources. Dig into reports that they already have that aren't doing the job. What if you could wave a magic wand and fix this report and it was exactly the way you wanted it? What would it look like then? What about other people that ask questions about this data? Who's bugging them for information? What do they want to know? Maybe they want to know how many people found out about this new product on their site from Instagram. Maybe their boss is bugging them about how a territory is trending toward quota. What information could we help them get and what questions could we help them answer about that. Try reframing questions as actions. We make dashboards to help decide things. What do we want this dashboard to help them decide? Maybe they want to know where to spend their marketing dollars or how many people to hire. As you probably know, the question will dictate the chart type. James wanted to see if his sales increased over time. That's perfect for a line graph. He also wanted to know his top net new sales by state. We could do that on a map, but that's a classic win for a bar chart. Do I have any customers in here? Cover your ears. I don't know everything. And we can't expect our end users to know everything either. Find out if they're our data person. And if they're not, we need to find out who our data person is. So what's a data person? The guy or gal who can tell us information about our data. Once we find this person, we have some key questions to find out. We want to know, first, where is the data? Where is it stored? How can I connect to it? Am I going to be connecting live? Or do I need to pull extracts? Is this thing in a cube? What kind of limitations do I have? You know, the important stuff. Get the details you need to get your end user accurate, updated data so they can rely on the dashboard you're building. Find out what database schedules are already in place. And if there's a system for creating new tables, new views, new schedules. So at this point, you have the information you need to make a good dashboard. But if you're here, you probably want to set yourself apart. So how do we make your executives ecstatic? How do we get them clicking on this thing when they wake up in the morning? James did. I know because he called me when it broke. It's their dashboard. Make it look like it. We want to design this thing in their style. So get really specific. What fonts do they want? What style do they like? What colors do they like? Do they hate the color orange? Get the brand guide. Are we designing for a company? Create a custom color palette and have fun with it. Don't know how? This is absolutely not me creating a shameless plug for the site at tableau.com/learn, where you can find free training videos, classes, professional services. Nope, not at all. What if there is no brand guide? The website gives you everything you need. So for fonts, go to your website, right-click on the words, and select Inspect Element. You can see what fonts they're using. If you want a faster approach, if you're using Google Chrome, you can install a browser extension that will tell you what fonts they're using on the entire page. A couple quick tips for typefaces and best practices. On that website, pay attention to what they're using for header text and body text. Header text works great for dashboard titles. Body text works great for worksheet titles and annotations. While you have that site pulled up, use Tableau Color Picker to grab the colors you need from the website and create your custom color palette. And if you don't have enough colors, open a new tab, go to color.adobe.com, and find more colors that look good with your branded colors. A note of caution for brands that use red. If red is one of your branded colors, remember that red commonly has a negative connotation. So if you use red, be consistent throughout your dashboards. Now, my boss is in here. Hi. And I have no problem telling him that I take shortcuts. Here's one of my favorites. Tableau lets you copy and paste formatting from one worksheet to another and one dashboard to another. To use it, right-click on the Formatted tab, select Copy Formatting, and Paste Formatting on the Unformatted tab. To take this a step further, you can use your already formatted dashboards as templates. So what are we going to do with all that time you saved? Add some Easter eggs. Just like we mix it up with our buzzsaws, you can mix up the work that you do and add in some exciting extras. These should be things that are personal to you, things that you've been working on, and things that are fun for you. I added a viz and tooltip for James so that he could drill down to his territories. And remember all that confusion about which KPIs should go on the dashboards for James? James knew which KPIs he needed to see first. But all those meetings I had with Mary and with Katie were still useful. They had important insights about what should be on that dashboard, and I was able to include them in the parameter swapped out in the chart. And never underestimate the power of dashboard actions. Filters and drill downs are a quick go-tos, and probably a lot like buzzsaws for us by now. But James was really excited to see that we could link straight to his opportunities in Salesforce. So, please turn to a neighbor and talk about a favorite Easter egg that you've added. I'm going to be asking for a couple of examples, so make them good. You have 5 minutes. right, how do we do? Who would like to share an Easter egg from their conversation? Don't everybody talk at once. Sure. You can come on up to the mic too if you'd like, sure.
One, two, 1, 2. All right. I work for TD Bank, and people really enjoy the URL jump with the parameter that they can filter. So we show them. I don't like to speak to you and not see you. Hi. so we show them on how to split their dashboard for improving the speed first, but after that they are stuck with different dashboard, right? So we show them how to jump from one dashboard to the other, putting the URL filtering. It's transparent for the user. So let's say they select an employee, they want the detail of the performance over the year. They will jump on the performance dashboard with the employee filtered and maybe the month or the year. So they like it.
Nice. Thank you. Who else? Come on up.
Hi, everyone. I'm from Accenture. So the Easter egg that we did for our customer is probably very simple, but it had a lot of impact. So our client was a health and benefit, basically they're into health and insurance. So the dashboard that was built was for internal and external users. So sometimes, it's difficult for them to read the dashboards, like what it narrates. So we came up with a very simple thing, like where we had an icon which talks about like how to read the dashboard. That had such an impact on the audience. They really liked the feature. Like every time we talk to clients or customers, they said that's really helpful for them to, read. And in case if they have to find some insights, they know which column or which measure to pick. That's one thing, and also it kind of helped us to come up with a document for when we want to document the entire dashboard for training purpose. That's it.
Thank you. I like how you started. You said it was really simple, but it had a lot of impact. These things don't have to be hard to be really cool. I think we have time for one more. Anyone else want to share? It can be yours, or it can be the one that you learned from someone else. Come on up.
Hi everybody, my name's Dave. I work at Boeing. So I'm going to tell you not about an Easter egg I created, but about an Easter egg that I found. So we have a lot of dashboards that we do within our IT organization to measure technical debt within the technology stacks and the equipment of thousands and thousands of applications that we have. So we're always using this dashboard. And it's a very traditional dashboard. It's pie charts and graphs, lines, and stuff like that. But one of the things that I had found myself doing over a course of about a year and a half, was going in and downloading the background data. And all of a sudden, I told the developers of the dashboard about how I'm always using the data that they had brought in to look for insights beyond what I was seeing. And one day, I opened up the dashboard. There was a very small Excel icon there. And so now, instead of having to go through the menu to be able to navigate and do it, I just clicked on the button, and there was all my data.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. So now that we have your dashboard built, we need to ensure that our dashboard works with our users' schedule. Find out how often they're going to use this thing. We want to make sure that we set our refresh schedules so that it shows up when they expect to see it with fresh data. James wanted to see his dashboard every 15 minutes. Others, they want to see their data weekly, and an every 15-minute refresh schedule would unnecessarily tax the system. We also need to make sure that our refresh schedule makes sense with our data refresh schedule. So if our data is updating every week, we don't want to set our dashboard to update every 15 minutes. Should the dashboard come to them? When would they like to see this dashboard in their inbox? James wanted to see his every weekday at 8 a.m. And set yourself apart by your ability to help your end user anticipate. What things would they like to be warned about? What things could go wrong that they would like to, have a little update? Partner with your end user to set benchmarks and strategically design charts to work with these benchmarks and schedule alerts based on these benchmarks. We're all tied to our phones. Let's design for them. Design for device type. Be specific. Did you see that update? They just made it so much easier for us to be really specific. So let's make sure that these things look good on our end users' devices. Speaking of phones, go ahead, take out yours. Type out your top 2 takeaways. You have 3 minutes. And if you'd like a reminder, here's a summary. We're going to start at the beginning by finding out first who our end user is and speaking directly to that person, not through a team, not through a committee. And then we're going to schedule a meeting with that person, whether they're in the next office or a continent away. We're going to speak with them and find out what they want. We're not leaving that meeting until we clarify the business questions that they want to answer with that dashboard. We want to establish rapport with them, building trust, so that we can get the information from them that we need. So that when we go back to sit down and start making that dashboard, we know what they want to answer and what they want that dashboard to work like and look like. We want to design in their style, whether it's their individual style or their company's branded style. And then finally, we want to add those exciting extras by setting this thing to their schedule. So it shows up in their inbox when they want to see it, and they have fresh data that they expect. So it matches the numbers that they're expecting to see, and they can rely on this dashboard that they've created. We can schedule subscriptions and alerts so that they get those little warnings when they wish they knew something was happening. And designing for their device. So whether they're looking at this thing on a desktop or the thing in their pocket, it looks great. So how are we doing? What questions can I answer for you? They've asked that you come up to the mics to ask questions so that they'll be recorded.
First of all, great presentation. Thank you. There's a lot of great tips. You said, try not to say no as much as possible. I wonder if you had any tips when someone wants like 50 things on their dashboard to help them kind of narrow that down a little bit. Thanks.
Yeah, so if someone has the longest list ever, like 50 things, I would help them prioritize. What's the most important question? What do we need to tackle first? You may get to all 50 things depending on how long you're working with them. But yeah, start with what's most important. Maybe what's the one that is keeping you up at night.
Hi, so I work for a government agency, and I'm not sure if there are other government partners here, but one thing that we really struggle with is we often can go and get the business questions. The problem is there are also a lot of folks who want to know the technical details, which data elements do we need to pull, and so on. A lot of times I find myself not knowing the answers to all those things because I need to do some exploration, and Tableau is great to explore and, give a couple of kind of prototypes, here are some possibilities, what do you like? So I guess my question is, what would you recommend in, when you have to deal with someone who's asking you for very particular requirements before you are even able to explore the data and explore the possibilities in Tableau?
I generally try to take it back to the business question. So we might not know what data we want to pull before we know what we're answering. So I can't give you a list of all the variables I'm going to need before I know what questions I need to answer. So I can guess we'll probably want these things, but I don't know for sure everything I'll need to pull. So I do need to clarify what questions we're going to answer before I know if I'm going to need X, Y, and Z variable. So some of those meetings do need to happen first. I do try to be flexible with the processes of the people that I'm working with and the organizations that I'm working with. So sometimes I do have to prepare a list of, sure, probably these based on the work I've done before. But then there's probably going to be a time that I'm going to come back after I clarify those questions, and there's probably going to be extras. So this other meeting or this other list may be a waste of time. But if they need it, okay, I'll give it to you.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
When setting up a meeting with the person whose dashboard this is for, we work with a large sales organization, and often that dashboard serves many people. What do you find are some of the best strategies to get collective opinions while, maybe not addressing everyone's favorite request?
So my favorite multiple people pleaser is the parameter, because you can swap in multiple things. Also, just having, maybe it doesn't make sense to have everyone have that same dashboard. So sometimes you do want to split it off, and this group gets this dashboard, and this group maybe should have their own. You can kind of see as different people have different questions they want to answer, it starts to make sense, like, okay, maybe this group is answering an entirely different set of questions, so they maybe should have their own dashboard at this point. If it's just a few things, then maybe we can swap this out with a parameter, but you do want to balance that with performance. If we write too many of these things, even if we are being really smart and using integers with our parameters, we're not writing too many, and we're moving calculations to the database, we are eventually going to slow that thing down, and we don't want to kill performance, especially if a lot of people are going to use it.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
I think you actually just answered my question. It was more so around balancing a report that's scalable across a large organization versus reports that are just for single individuals. Sometimes the requirements, or sometimes the individuals you're working with, it's not one specific person, where when you were working with, for example, was it Jim or James?
James,
for the
yeah.
example, yeah. So for a leadership perspective, we have multiple leaders, and they all want different things. But I think the advice that you gave to the young gentleman here kind of helped in that. So thanks for beating me to the punch. Thank you.
Glad to hear it, yeah.
Hi. So one of my primary problems that I'm trying to deal with in these conversations now is with the stakeholder who's less familiar with data and just has no clue what they want.
Okay.
And so I have this one person in particular I'm working with who we'll get to the underlying question. We'll talk about things much more simply and broadly. Whatever I bring to him, he says, "Great, this is perfect." And then he always ends up just copying values into an Excel spreadsheet and doing something completely different with it. And I'm struggling to nail down and actually give him what he needs.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it sounds like they're taking the work that you did in Tableau, copying it into Excel, and maybe that doesn't quite make sense anymore for that analysis?
Yeah, basically. And so it's just another layer of like places for errors to occur, which is frustrating for me because I want to make sure it's as right as we can get it.
Yeah.
But he seems to not know what he wants until he's able to play around with it in an environment that's familiar to him.
Got it. That might be a good opportunity to partner with him and help him do that secondary analysis, maybe in Tableau.
Yeah.
Could even, maybe just sit down with him and help him, what questions do you want to answer to take this further? You could help him swap things out in parameters or show him how to drag and drop in web edit, maybe.
Okay.
That could be a really cool thing. Like, hey, here's how you drag and drop and replace if you want to look at this differently.
Okay.
If he's at a place where he might want to do some of that on his own. It sounds like he's wanting to explore his own data.
Yeah.
So that could be really cool.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a pretty general question.
All
but
right.
What are some best practices that you've seen in your work to strike the right balance between, let's say, some of the very technical users and developers wants to approach a project waterfall and get all the detailed requirements up front, and maybe data immature end users' real need to have a highly iterative process?
I don't think you're ever going to know everything up front. But I absolutely understand the idea of wanting to have a plan, wanting to follow the plan, and especially the idea of wanting to meet the deadline and know that that's going to happen and be a real thing. We have an amazing advantage in having this product that's fast, flexible. If we need to make a change, we can often just drag and drop and it's going to be changed. So that's really cool. So I like the idea that we can give the people who want to do the planning, whether it's the waterfall, agile, any type of planning that we're doing there, we can give them a framework. I don't always end up sticking exactly to the framework that we lay out. We know we're going to make changes. We know that our end users are going to have changes, and I kind of just accept that. So if someone says, no, now I want it to be this variable, okay, fine. Even if that means I go back and write something different in the view, that's okay, because I really do place the priority on making sure that we answer the business question that needs to be answered. If they want the formatting changed, if they want really whatever the change is, I see that as more important. And then, yeah, making sure we meet the deadline. I see it as a balance between those two teams. I try to look at where they're both coming from. We've got this group that needs to make sure that they get the project planning and they're gonna make this deadline and they can tell their bosses that they're gonna meet this deadline. And then we have this other group that just needs this dashboard, they need this thing to work, they need it to answer this question. And I would far rather just kind of make a weird compromise in the middle and just drop it in there and make both groups happy. I would love to have never told anyone that I just said that, but that's my answer.
So I was wondering if you have any conversational strategies for when someone comes to you and says, I need a pie chart that looks like this. Or they draw for you what they want and they say, can you give me this? And you try and ask them what the question is they want to answer. And they say, I need a pie chart that shows me this.
Yeah, so sometimes saying, hey, what question do you want to answer? If that's just frustrating, then don't stick to that question. They want that pie chart. Sometimes you know what question they want to answer. They want to know what percentage of the total do each of these categories make up. Okay, cool. And if there are too many categories in that pie chart, because you can no longer differentiate, like looking at it, there are too many, I can't tell what those slices, how many there are, or like how big they are compared to each other, then I know and you know that that's not a good chart for that. So we're not gonna say we can't answer this question with this. I'm just gonna say, okay, yeah, I can make that. And I'm gonna go take a little time and I'm gonna switch that into a tree chart and a bar chart or whatever else I want. And I'm gonna bring it back to him and I'm gonna say, hey, I made that and I made these two and just an idea. What do you think?
Okay.
And I'm gonna let him pick. And I'm hoping they're gonna pick the tree or maybe the bar. I'm really hoping. They might pick the pie. They can have the pie. I'm really hoping.
Thank you.
So what advice would you give for business users who are requesting lots and lots of filters be applied to the visualization? And the twist is those users are C-level and senior VP individuals.
Yeah. So lots and lots of filters are okay to a point. But if we get too many filters, we're looking at performance, and we're also looking at just plain UI. This thing is no longer helping us, and those filters aren't helping us. So I want to look at how necessary those filters are. I might start looking at, maybe we can make a chart that actually does what we want some of those filters to do. And maybe those charts can be interactive and answer a question too. Maybe we want to know how a territory is broken down, and we can click on a tree and that would filter everything else down. So we can kind of get two things in one. I also want to know, do we need to show all those filters? Do we need to filter out the data before we even bring it into the view? We could get a win for performance as opposed to hindering performance with all these filters. So maybe we need to ask more questions about what we're looking at in the first place. So yeah. Then I just start asking a lot of why questions. I want to be careful about my tone. I don't want to be like, hey, why are we doing this? But yeah, just finding out what are we doing with all these filters? And then I do, if I'm getting pushback or if that's just not doing it, I do just start explaining like, hey, we have a trade-off here. And if that doesn't do it, then hey, cool, we can leave all the filters. But I do leave a reminder that we do have an opportunity for optimization here. So if we notice the dashboard's slow, and we're looking for a way to make it faster down the line, this is one of those things that we could do. We could start looking at pulling some of these things off.
In situations where you have problems with the quality of the data, where it's not in a good enough shape to support the analysis that they're requesting, how do those conversations go?
When the data's not shaped well,
Yeah, it's there's missing values, missing links. Data has to be continually transformed before you can use it.
gotcha. So in a lot of situations, I'm fortunate that I can shape the data or work with. That's where I find my data person. Like, hey, what opportunities do we have to change the shape of the data before we bring it in? If we are going to bring it into Tableau, we can work with things like prep, which is really nice, or do some. We don't want to write a lot of calculations. That's the only thing that I want to caution from doing. If we cannot write a lot of calculations to shape the data, that we can't move to the database because we want to be careful with performance. But if our data is a mess, yeah, I'd recommend looking at things like prep or some of the things that we can just do in the tool to make it shaped a little bit better. And if we're at a total loss, then I would go back to that data person. Do you have someone like that?
I just meant that, kind of leveraging the person that's asking for the analysis to help them clean up the data prior to getting it to you, to, structure it better, create more filtering on the front end so that the stuff that you're getting coming to you.
Yeah, if you're looking for something on the front end, I would definitely look more into prep or yeah, that would probably be my first recommendation, actually.
So it's
There are
the
classes.
data person,
What was that?
the data person to partner with. So you're saying it's more the data person to partner with.
I think so, yeah. I would say either find that data person or look into prep to get it if you want to clean it up before you pull it in.
All right, thank you.
What else?